Well, welcome to the New Health Conversation podcast. This is a podcast, it's not an infomercial. We're going to share with you today why diets really are failing us miserably in the long run. We're only going to present you with scientific proof. We don't give you opinions. Opinions don't matter. They don't matter to us. We're researchers. For the last 21 years of my life, I've been a nutritional researcher, and I don't tell you this to impress you, but I've written 4 best-selling books with some of the top medical doctors in the world. I've done over 1,500 lectures all over the world and did 20 shows on PBS. So this is the New Health Conversation podcast. We're here to serve you. We're here to, really what we want to do today is simply give you an option. Because I think we all could agree, maybe someone can disagree, put it in the chat, that all the traditional diets you're familiar with, whether it's paleo, keto, time-restricted eating, fat, whatever it is, it's some form of lowering calories. We're going to show you the medical evidence that now the experts are saying that going on a traditional diet by lowering calories and thinking that's the solution to losing weight is one of the most unhealthy things you could ever do. So again, today we're going to show you the overwhelming evidence that diets not only don't they work, but obviously there's medical proof why they don't work. And you may find yourself in the, 80% of America's overweight, 50% are obese, 50% are pre-diabetic. Does anyone really think this is working? The good news is that today what we're going to do, we're also going to share with you 7 new, I have them right here in my hand, 7 new peer-reviewed medical trials that aren't even a diet. That actually, this weight loss discovery was made when they were looking for something completely different. The researchers who did the research in these 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies are the top nutrition researchers for weight loss and health for more than 38 years. What they found was a way for the human body to basically get rid of the toxic chemicals that we're storing inside of us. This is absolutely proven. It's not an opinion. It's the medical facts, okay? What they didn't expect to happen, what was so shocking, was that as a result of assisting the body in removing these toxic chemicals, people lost, well, I can tell you this, that men and women with no exercise allowed, because they didn't want exercise to be an outlier, they ended up losing as much weight in 7 days as in 8 weeks of any diet. They ended up losing in 30 days as much weight as people lost in a year. And again, we're only presenting you the medical proof. Is there anyone else you've seen on social media showing you peer-reviewed human trial studies, proving what they're saying, or are they just giving you an opinion and you just go with it? They're charming, they're funny, they're maybe a medical doctor, maybe they're a chiropractor, maybe they're a dietitian, maybe they're a nutritionist, maybe they're a weight loss coach, maybe there's someone just giving you an inspirational story, and those are all really good, but they don't mean a darn thing in the medical world. And I can address that because for 20 years of my 21 years of research, not one medical doctor would even take a look at this protocol. So it took that long for it to finally pass the scrutiny of what are called peer-reviewed human trial studies. But it wasn't the researchers didn't start out with the intention of creating a new weight loss protocol, because it has nothing to do with counting the calories. It's just totally, completely different than anything you've seen before. So this is the New Health Conversation podcast. We're here to educate you. We're going to give you information about why diets are failing us, because they are. It's not up for debate, okay? And so you have an opportunity today for a completely different awakening, in a sense, or just, I guess a better way to say it is we're giving you an option, okay? The option is you can certainly still go back and do traditional diets, lowering calories, starving yourself to death, and then finding out once you come off that diet, you gain everything back with your best intentions. Look, if we have we do have 80% of America overweight, 50% are obese, 50% are pre-diabetic. Do you really think that anything that we're doing currently is working? Because obviously it's not. Again, this is the New Health Conversation. My name is Peter Greenlaw. I've been a nutritional researcher for 21 years. And for 20 of those years, with all the research, with everything that I was doing, it didn't mean a thing in the medical world. But now, with these 7 new peer-reviewed studies, as a matter of fact, let me just give you a little bit of a preview. Now, you think these are photoshopped, I know. The first one, this is Kristen, okay? You can see her there. She lost 21.2 pounds, 38.75 inches in 30 days. Let me repeat. She lost 21 pounds, 38.75 inches to be precise, in 30 days. And you can see, look at the shape, look at her stomach, how much it went down. That is not photoshopped as much as you think it is. This is not a diet. No one's ever seen results like this. The next one I want to show you is 5 weeks, and you can see her from, let me straighten it out there, October 3rd to November 9th. Look at the difference from her neck to her ankles, how much she shrank in 30 days. No diet's ever produced anything like this. At a minimum, if she was losing that kind of weight that fast, A, it would be unhealthy on a diet, and B, she'd have loose skin. At any point you can see it. Someone put it up there for me. Thank you for doing that. The New Health Conversation. It's a website. You can go there for free. There's no gimmicks. We're not going to contact you if you go there. It's just for you to see the scientific information. And then, and here's what's unusual, you can then sign up for a free, and I mean free, consultation. No tricks, no gimmicks, no twisting your arm. That's what we do. Because we don't know anything about you. Do you want to gain weight? Do you want to lose weight? What do you want to do? So anyway, welcome everyone to the New Health Conversation. As I said before, my name is Peter Greenlaw. I've been a nutritional researcher for 21 years, wrote 4 best-selling books all with medical doctors, did 20 shows on PBS, and conducted over 1,500 lectures all over the world. I even was in China. I'm not telling you that to impress you, but I want to impress upon you what we're going to share with you today is so monumental. Because for 20 years, like everybody else that you're seeing on social media, I was giving people opinions, I was showing them before and afters, they were sharing inspirational stories. But in the medical world, that doesn't mean a thing, nor should it mean anything to you. I don't expect you to listen to me, but hopefully you'll listen to the science, because science has no emotions, it has no agenda. But now we know what's so exciting, that based on these 7 new peer-reviewed trial studies, men and women are literally able to lose as much weight in 7 days as in 8 weeks of any diet that's ever been measured. And they literally lost as much weight in 30 days as 12 weeks of any of the diets. We're going to share all that data with you in just a few moments. So if you're really, really serious about, or curious would be an even better word, even though you're skeptical, you can go to that website, the New Health Conversation. You can see all the medical evidence. There's no gimmicks or tricks. And then the other part of it is you're in a position where you can go on the site. There's this thing that says free consultation. Now, you don't have to do a free consultation to see everything that's there, but it really, really is free. So if any of you are excited about, really the only solution that's been proven with medical proof in, well, forever really, but these researchers that did the research, they've been looking for the silver bullet for weight loss for 38 years, and now they've found it, okay? Now, it's based on 4 principles like this. Number 1, about 50% of the food that people consume, the researchers put a groceries list together, proteins, fats, carbs, fruits, etc., okay? Only about half the food. The other half of the food came literally from all over the world. It came from New Zealand, it came from South America, it came from Russia, it came from Mongolia, Manchuria, even came from Tibet and the Himalayas. Now, why did they have to do that? Because our food in this country, with your best intentions, is becoming more and more nutritionally bankrupt. And what happens to us as we ingest calories, the body is not nourished. Now, the other problem is, you go on a diet, you lower calories. What else are you lowering? Nutrition. And because the body doesn't even know what a calorie is. Why are we counting calories? Because someone told you to. But again, the downfall of every diet is, with the analysis that I'm going to share with you in a moment, is that up to 40% of what you're losing on any diet is your lean muscle mass. And when that happens, the body doesn't have a choice. It slows down your metabolism, period, not up for debate. And when that occurs, the other thing that happens is, number 1, you can't burn as many calories, but that's not the real bad thing. The real bad thing that happens is we now know that by losing lean muscle, you're also slowing down your immune system. The very immune system that keeps us alive, okay? Well, that's not a good thing. And that's every diet, that up to 40% of the weight you're losing. You think it's good, you're fitting in your skinny jeans, but what price are you paying long term in your body? Wouldn't you be excited if you, I mean, seriously, if you stepped on the scale to 7 days and you'd lost as much weight and knew it was safe in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, wouldn't you be excited about it? So again, for those joining right now, this is the New Health Conversation podcast. We're talking about, here's the topic for today: why diets are failing us, because they are. There's no doubt about it. I mean, look around. 80% of America's overweight, 50% are obese. Does anybody really think that diets are working? And again, I'm open to input. Put in the chat if you can name a diet that's not some form of lowering calories. But the point is the body doesn't even run on calories. It doesn't know what a calorie is. Why are we insisting on this? Because everybody's told us that up until now. That's why these researchers that have looked, they really have analyzed pretty much every diet, from fasting to intermittent fasting to time-restricted eating to Cornish to Atkins, and what they were frustrated. Yes, people lost weight, but the weight that they were losing was primarily lean muscle mass. And then the people would come off the diet and they'd gain all their weight back. How many of you have yo-yoed? How many of you are going through that right now? How many of you really think that the diet, whatever diet you're on right now, that a year from now you're going to weigh less than you do now? I see people going to the gym and they're literally working out like crazy just to maintain how much they've gained. They're not losing an ounce. I see them on the treadmill. I see them on the Stairmaster. I see them sweating and whatever, you know? Because believe it or not, exercise is not a strategy for losing weight long term. It's great for cardiovascular, and that's why you should do it, and for muscles. But as far as weight loss, there's never been any evidence showing that diet, especially diet and exercise, had any form of success. Hi, Donna. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. So here's the difference with the new health conversation. You can see it right there up on the screen. We don't give you opinions. If you want opinions, there's plenty of people on social media that can give you opinions. But again, don't we have to be a little bit smarter and say, no, wait a minute. Are any of these people giving me medical proof about what they're saying? I don't care what diet it is. They're going to show you 3 recipes to lose weight, show you how to cut 300 calories. But is it working with 80% of America overweight and 50% obese and 50% of Americans pre-diabetic? I keep hammering that point home only because the reality is that this is really what's going. Don't you want to know why diets are failing us? Because they are. It's not an opinion. That's the difference, okay? So the idea that you would think that, somehow you're going to go on a diet and you're going to lose weight, which you will. You'll lose weight on any diet. But it's the two of the most unhealthy things you could ever do to yourself. And look at these results in these new, look, these are these new peer-reviewed human trial studies. 7. There's not 1 or 2 or 3. 7. And for some of you, maybe you're not familiar with peer-reviewed human trial studies. That's not on mice. That's not on rats. It's not in a petri dish. It's not a clinical study. It's not a scientific paper. This is the highest you can go in medical evaluation, medical proof, okay? These researchers have looked at, and look, for 38 years they've been chasing the silver bullet. They always did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis. Well, they were completely shocked that, number one, people literally lost as much weight in 30 days as 12 months of any diet. I'm going to show you the proof in just a moment. But the other thing, blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, all came crashing down just in 30 days. Inflammation, which plagues all of us, came down 25% in 30 days, and people in 8 weeks shrank their visceral fat, as you can see it here in this picture, that was just 5 weeks. Look at the difference in her body. That's the visceral fat shrinking away. And notice she has no loose skin. And this is not Photoshop. We're researchers. We don't need to Photoshop stuff. We don't need to make anything up. If you go to the website, it's free. And if you go to our website, I promise we won't contact you. We have no way of doing that. The only way we'll contact you is if you fill out to do a free consultation. I mean free. Now, let's just talk about some of the biggest myths out there about counting calories and why it's so crazy. Here's an article right here. I don't know if you can read it or not. The title is Why You Shouldn't Count Calories. This is not our opinion. This is from medical studies. Listen to this. This is unbelievable, but yet it's not. Truth is, calorie counting is a terrible approach for weight loss. While counting calories and restricting calories can help you lose weight in the short term, the approach has never been proven to keep weight off long term. It's exactly what I've been talking about. But they go on to say, what's even worse is 2/3 of people who try to count or restrict their calories will gain back more weight than they lost. It's not an opinion. Okay, and then to go even a little bit deeper, let's go to Harvard Medical School. This article is entitled Stop Counting Calories. Really? Listen to what she says. this idea of a calorie in and a calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong, says Fatima Stanford, an obesity specialist at Harvard Medical School. Not my opinion, okay? Now, she goes on to say, drop the calories notion, says Stanford. It's time to take a different approach, putting the emphasis on what's in the calorie, not how many calories we were ingesting. These are the world's experts saying that they made a mistake. That counting calories was not the best thing. Because if you only concentrate on the calorie and not what's in the calorie, you're doomed. You're going to lose lean muscle mass, okay? Well, the researchers, what did they do? They knew that. They knew that our food, because they'd put people on every diet there was for 38 years. Yeah, they'd lose weight. It was lean muscle, and then they'd gain all the weight back. Because what they did when they went on a diet, it wasn't that they just had a deficiency of food, they had a deficiency of nutrition. And as a result, the body, to survive, went and looked for the nutrition. Where did it find it? In the organs, but starting in our muscles. It's breaking your muscles down, converting them into carbohydrates, whether you know it or not. And as a result of that, the body it has no choice. It has to downregulate. It has to slow down your metabolism. But not just your metabolism, the rate at which you burn calories when you're resting or sleeping or sitting at your desk. It's called your basal metabolic rate. That's a fancy name for the amount of calories you're burning when you're not exercising, okay? Well, the other thing that happens is even more unhealthy is it also, by losing lean muscle mass supports our immune system. So you've taken away support from your immune system. Now your immune system doesn't work as well. And if we've learned anything in the last 5 years, isn't our immune system kind of important to you? So again, for those coming on, this is the New Health Conversation. This is a podcast devoted to real medical proof about this topic. Why diets are failing us, because they are. I don't care what diet you're on. The medical evidence proves that in the long run, what you're going to do is you're going to end up at least where you started in terms of weight you lost, you gained it all back, or they said 2/3 of people weigh more than what they started. Why are we continuing this insanity? We keep doing the same thing, count those calories, lower those calories, go to the gym, sweat, whatever. Long term, it doesn't work, even though I've seen people on social media. There's a lot of nice people. This one lady, she lost 60 pounds last year. Her goal, but I've watched her week after week after week. She's not losing an ounce anymore. Stopped. It's not going to work. What she did to lose the 60 pounds, sadly, 30 to 40% of that's her lean muscle mass. It's not up for debate. This is proven in study after study after study. I mean, you can do whatever you want. Look, the purpose behind our podcast, the New Health Conversation, you can see it up there on the comments. You can go there. It's free. You can go and actually see the medical proof, not opinions. Not only can you see the medical proof, there's an interview with the #1 nutritional researcher in the world for the last 38 years who conducted the studies. There's also a walkthrough, a pretty detailed walkthrough of exactly what did they do to achieve these look, that's, let me get it. That's 5 weeks, October 3rd to November 9th. It's not Photoshop. And by the way, it's the same year. Look at the difference. Look at how much she shrank. That's not happening on diets. She didn't exercise. Because the body knows what to do if you give it what it needs. The problem we're all facing is we're looking at basically food that's becoming, even if it's organic, it's becoming more and more nutritionally deficient. We've known it for years and years and years and years. It's not some new phenomenon, right? So what we're doing, we're consuming food that's really dense amounts of calories with very little nutrition, if that makes sense. And the problem with that is that the body only responds to nutrition. Doesn't matter how many calories you ingest, if there's no nutrition, your body's never going to be satisfied. That's why, and also to prove that to you, I have a big study here in the Lancet. It's the #1 medical journal in the world. This study was published March 19th of 2024. Listen to what they're saying. Now more than 1 billion people worldwide are clinically obese, making obesity the leading form of malnutrition worldwide. That's my point. We're consuming these calories, so now we cut down on the calories that don't have any nutrition. The body freaks out, goes in starvation mode and starts to convert our muscles into fuel. Because the brain, the kidney, the liver, the heart, they can't work without nutrition. They don't give a darn about calories, but they sure care about nutrition, right? But they go on to say most people are not aware that obesity and being underweight are both forms of malnutrition, because in both cases the people are not getting the right amounts of vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and the types of calories that are required to be healthy. There's your downside. There's the problem. Well, what did these researchers do? Well, they did 4 things. I guess I never finished that part of the conversation. First, they developed a grocery list for people to take to the store, but it only represented about 40% of the food that they typically would buy in a month. The other 60%, they had located 5 food groups from around, other researchers had found this over the years, but 5 food groups that came literally from all over the world, from Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, from Nepal and the Himalayas, from New Zealand, and also South America. Those foods had tremendous amounts of the nutrients in super high levels that used to be in the food in North America. But because of over-farming and we produce these huge quantities of food, we've ignored nutrition. And now what are we left with? We got 80% of America overweight, 50% are obese, 50% of Americans are pre-diabetic, and CDC came out this year saying that 92% of you and me and everybody are metabolic unhealthy if they have 3 of 5 factors: overweight, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, high triglycerides. See, and don't be fooled. If you're on any type of medication, thank God we have them, I'm not against them, but understand something. If you're on high blood pressure medication, if you're on high sugar medication, you still have those conditions, or cholesterol, or triglycerides, whatever it is. So we're masking what's the root cause. Well, Harvard University said that obesity leads to about 60 known diseases. Also, the oncologists are telling me now that cigarette smoking used to be the #1 preventable cause of cancer. You know what it is now? Obesity. So this is not about fat shaming anybody. And lest you not think that I'm sensitive to this, my own mother was morbidly obese my whole life. I never knew her thin. I never knew her healthy. And 23 years ago, she called me up one day and she said, "You know, Peter, I have one really big wish in my life." I said, "Mom, what's that?" She said, "I would give anything if I could just spend 24 hours thin." I said, "Wow, Mom, that's really cool." Well, 6 months later, massive heart attack and stroke. That's why I became a researcher. My mother did about every diet that there ever was, from paleo to keto to Mediterranean to Cornish. She would cut diets out of the National Enquirer. I'd see her lose 20 pounds, gain 25 pounds back. She'd lose 25 pounds and she gained 30 back over and over. I believe, I can't prove it, that she dieted herself to death. And then I became really, I thought something's really, really wrong here. So that was one of the things that led me to become a nutritional researcher for the last 21 years. And you got to understand, for 20 of those years, let me be very clear, okay? I'm called the researcher of the researchers. I'm not doing the research, but I'm bringing you the research. I'm showing it to you. I'm only sharing with you peer-reviewed human trial medical studies. Nothing is my opinion. Why would you listen to me? People are jumping off right now thinking they have a solution. Well, if 80% of Americans are overweight and 50% are obese, I don't think that anybody has a solution if they're using traditional means of lowering calories to lose weight. It doesn't work. Again, for the new people, the new health, this is what we're talking about. Why diets are failing us. That's the whole point behind this podcast, is to just give you an option. So you get a choice. You can choose between traditional diets, or you can choose between these 7 new peer-reviewed studies that are producing results like this. Kristen, why is it not? Oh, there we go. Sorry. 21.2 pounds, 38.75 inches in 30 days. 30 days. Look at her stomach. Now, you might think these are Photoshop. They're not Photoshop. That's real. And again, people, and I know I can tell by the number of people that go to the website and sign up for a free consultation. I understand the skepticism, okay? I get it. But the evidence, which I'm just gonna give you a couple of quick examples here to show you what we're really up against. And it's really sort of crazy when you realize that you have like this Stop Counting Calories from Harvard Medical School saying the idea of calories in, calories out is for weight loss is not only inadequate, it's just wrong. That's Harvard Medical School. So are you going to continue to watch these? You can do it if you want. I'm not going to disparage them to go on these, diets that they're giving you opinions. One of the big ones right now that I see over and over again is time-restricted eating, where you don't eat for 16 hours and you eat for 8. But what's the real medical proof behind it? Let's go to a big study done in the Journal of the American Medical Association, okay? In this study, done by the Journal of the American Medical Association, it was a 3-month study on time-restricted eating. Listen to this. The new research found that overweight adults who were assigned to routinely fast 16 hours daily, eating all their meals between noon and 8 p.m., popularly known as the 16-8 diet, gained almost no benefit from it. And over the course of 3 months, they lost 2 to 3.5 pounds, but most of the weight they shed was not body fat, but lean muscle mass. And yet I see influencers coming on, well, the only thing you lose on time-restricted eating is fat. Where they get? No, it's not. That's inaccurate. It's darn right not true. I get really excited about this because of the fact that we've been so misled. We're misled today. How can these people justify the fact 80% is overweight, 50% are obese? To tell you how bad it's getting, in 2018, 42% of the population was obese. 6 years later, it's 50%. That's like a 24% increase in 6 years. What do you think we're doing? What do you think is going to end up? Here's the reality. Show me any of these diets that work long term where you're not losing lean muscle mass. They don't exist until now. Now there's 7 of them. Look, men and women in this protocol. Gosh, I still haven't explained it to you. I apologize for that, for the people that are hanging in there. Okay, so 4 things. 50%, about, let's say, 40% of the food they get from the grocery store. The other 5 foods, they came from all over the world that had tremendous amounts of nutrition in it. But then they had 2 completely different ways of consuming the food. One is called protein pacing, which blows away time-restricted eating or eat only when you're hungry, right? The other one is that called intermittent nutritional fasting. Not time-restricted eating, not fasting, not a water fast, not a lemon fast, right? So it was a combination of the regular food, about 40% of it. It's about 60% was from these 5 foods around the world. And then the other thing was the protocols. How did they consume it? Which became obviously, let's call it the recipe, for lack of a better term. And if you go to the website, you can see it right there, the New Health Conversation, okay? Erica, I really appreciate that. Yes, absolutely. But here's the problem, even with that, okay? We know that unless you remineralize the soil in your backyard, and maybe you can do that, but if you don't do that, one of the things, even in the best organic food, this may shock you, we need what are called trace ionic minerals. There are 70 that we need. In the best organic analyze, you're getting 15 to 20 of the 70 minerals. One of the things the researchers did, they found a source with all 70 minerals just starting out. So there were nutrients with your best intentions that are they're still in our food, but in really low quantities, even if it's organic. I mean, one of the things, for example, Erica, that you'd be probably interested in is that, and it sounds like you're pretty knowledgeable. So the building blocks of life are called amino acids. There are 20 of them. 9 are essential, meaning you have to get them from outside your body. You have to get them from your diet. So everybody's running around saying have 120 grams or more of protein a day. It's good in theory, but it means nothing to your body. The only thing the body cares about is of the 20 amino acids, what percentage, 0 to 100, are being absorbed, okay? Well, in Europe, about 9 or 10 years ago, they developed a new test where when you ingest a protein from a plant or from an animal, they can tell you what percentage of absorption, 0 to 100, okay? They did blood, stool, urine, and fat analysis to discover this. Shockingly, and I don't mean, if you're a vegan, don't get mad at me. I'm just a scientist. I'm just telling you the data. When they looked at something like a pea protein, okay, they found that the absorption of the amino acids was only 10% out of 100. 90% was toxic waste that the kidneys had to get rid of. Now, all meats were higher, but they were only 30%. Now, the researchers, they found proven sources where the absorption of the amino acids was 91%. Now the key to that is what you don't, whether it's a pea protein or meat, what's not converted into amino acids are actually turned into toxins called nitrogen catabolites. Those include urea, creatine, ammonia, and glucose. That's the byproduct. So if you thought of protein like the walnut shell, obviously you don't want to eat the shell. So when we ingest protein from plants or animals, the body breaks open the protein, it extracts all 20 amino acids, and that sounds good, but then the body, it's so inefficient, the body with plant-based proteins, about 10, maybe 15% at the most, where in meat it's 30%, but they use 91%. That's why, and I don't know if you were here for that, Erica, but the men and women in the studies were not allowed to exercise because they wanted to test the theory. If you gave people, because there's one of the amino acids called leucine, I should have said that, that's responsible to make muscle in our body, even if you're lifting weights and doing resistance training, right? So imagine the people in the study were not allowed to exercise, so it wasn't about lifting weights to gain, and they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle, despite the fact they lost as much weight, I know it sounds crazy, in 30 days as 12 months of any diet. And instead of like on any diet out there losing lean muscle, up to 40% of it, by the way, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle. Why? Because they were getting 91% of leucine, which is responsible to make muscle. Okay, so then the other part of this was they were two completely different ways of let's say inbounding food, but onboarding food. One was called protein pacing, where now it was down to proteins, very specific amounts at very specific times and in very specific orders. That's what protein pacing is all about. Completely opposite of something like time-restricted eating, which is now proven to be most of the weight you're losing on that is your lean muscle mass, not fat, okay? And so they were able to I lost 59 pounds doing what I did, and I kept... Great, Erica, but did you measure your lean muscle mass? That's the thing that would concern me the most. Because, Erica, probably 40% of what you lost was lean muscle mass. Sorry to tell you that. So, again, when you see something like this, Erica, in 5 weeks, you look at her transformation, how much she shrank. And in the medical evidence, they prove that the visceral fat, that's the deadly fat around our organs, shrank by 33%. The other thing, Erica, that you want to be very, very aware of is that you, me, everybody on this planet is suffering from this syndrome. Brand new medical syndrome called the TDOS syndrome. The T is for toxicity, the D is for deficiency, the O is for being overweight, and the S is for stress. Of the 59 pounds you lost based on scientific proof, you didn't lose 1 gram of a toxic chemical that's stored inside your visceral fat. Okay, so this is a big, big deal. Now, lest you think it's just me making it up. Now, what are we talking about? We talk about toxins, herbicides, pesticides. You're breathing it. Right now, you and me, Erica, and everybody else on this podcast, we're breathing in the fumes from the coal-fired power plants in China, the cadmium and the mercury from 14 days ago. I mean, unless you're not breathing, then you don't have to worry about it. I'm serious. Do you know that they did a test on 10,000 water treatment plants around this country? They found on average they had between 400 and 500 toxic chemicals in the water we're drinking? I mean, did you see the thing on Starbucks coffee like 3 weeks ago, where in each cup of Starbucks coffee you're getting between 50 and 100,000 microplastics in every cup? What do you think your body's doing with that? It's stuffing them in your visceral fat. You know, Erica, I mean, I'm just a researcher. I'm just giving you the research. I'm giving you the evidence, right? No diet has ever produced the proof of a loss of 1 gram of a toxin. They proved in these studies through blood, urine, stool, and fat analysis, this was removing things like PCBs, herbicides, and pesticides, because what the body's doing to protect us, to keep us alive, it's taking the chemical and stuffing it in the visceral fat, which is our last line of defense, that fat wrapped around our organs, but it's really unhealthy. So the chemical comes in and it blows up the fat cell. That's why people have so much fat and loose skin on their body, because the body's trying to protect us. Well, this was proven. If you remove the chemical, it's the body removing, and it's not some thing, okay? The body, then those fat cells shrink, but they have the medical evidence. It's not an opinion. It went down 33% in 8 weeks, no exercise, no sit-ups, no crunches, etc. The only reason to do this is to detoxify, is assist our own body in removing chemicals. Oh, and by the way, the side effects? They lost weight 12 times faster than any diet. They lost no water. They gained lean muscle. And they lowered blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, and inflammation. No diet, nothing you've ever done removes inflammation from the body. This was done in medical trials. It's called T-bars is the way you measure it, and they look at 2 factors in the body. One's called C-reactive protein, the other's interleukin-1. Came down 25% in 30 days. No one's ever seen anything like this before. The reason to do this is not to lose weight. Let's be clear, everyone. No, don't even think about this to lose weight. That's a throw-in. And you can see there, let me put it up there for all of you again. The website you can go to for free, the New Health Conversation. Couple of things. Number one, if you go to that website, we will not contact you, I swear. We don't have to do that. We have so many people that are interested in this, right? But if you go there and you look at the medical proof, there's no celebrity endorsements, there's no commercials there, there's nothing except the medical proof. And if you like what you see, scroll to the bottom of the landing page and you'll see at the very bottom, sign up for a free consultation. That means free. I have people all the time, how much is the free consultation? I'm going like, oh my gosh, are we really that skeptical? Is that really where we've gotten to? I understand why. But my goodness, the reason we do a free consultation with you, we don't know anything about you. Are you concerned about storing toxins in your body? Are you overweight? Are you underweight? Do you want to gain weight? Are you an athlete? You know, we got kids as young as 2 doing part of this. We have grandmas 90. We have people that, I have a guy with a heart transplant. I got 2 people with had kidney transplants. Well, those are all different circumstances, and we're not treating, curing, preventing or diagnosing any medical disease. We're not doing that. All we're doing is sharing with you the medical proof. For example, there were a lot of diabetics in these 7 peer-reviewed studies. The doctors, there were medical doctors there monitoring their patients, and what they found was astounding. I mean, thank goodness. Well, we got 50% of Americans pre-diabetic now, but there's lots of diabetics, obviously. And so in the diabetics case, they saw their blood sugar come down by 10 points in 30 days, not 10%. Now, why is that significant? Well, because that's what the drugs will do, no question. And we need, you know, there's metformin, there's glucophage, there's, I think, there's all these drugs now, okay, including insulin. So what happens, the drug lowers your blood sugar. That's a good thing. But also there's a bad side to it. And the bad side is, in order to lower the blood sugar, insulin goes up. When insulin goes up, you store fat. That's why diabetics struggle so much with losing weight. In these studies, despite the fact that their blood sugar came down 10 points in a month, insulin came down by 41%. The researchers were shocked. They never expected anything like that. They had never seen any numbers even resembling this on any of the studies. Erica, you're probably well advised, but there are some people, Erica, unfortunately, they really don't have a choice. I mean, it's not something to fool around with, and I would never. Look, if anything, what we're teaching people is, and the doctors agree, that if someone has high blood pressure or someone has, you know, blood sugar issues, unless they're a type 1 diabetic and then it was from birth they didn't have enough beta cells to produce enough insulin, then they need insulin. But again, even with type 1 diabetics, one of the goals has been to be able to lower the amount of insulin that their body needed in order to function, and they proved it in the studies. No diet has ever produced anything even resembling this. Now, I just talked to you a few minutes ago with some of the new people on time-restricted eating, which is a big buzz. You don't eat for 16 hours and you eat for 8. Okay, well, here's a study, and you probably can read that. The New England Journal of Medicine, probably the second biggest medical journal probably in the entire world. They did a study, 12 months, to get to the bottom of calorie reduction diets, one group of people. Group 2 was time-restricted eating Okay, what did they find? Now again, we only read from the medical studies. We're not giving you opinions. We're not making a claim. We're reading from the study. Here's what they found. The mean weight loss from baseline at 12 months for lowering calorie group was 16 pounds. That's in a year, ladies and gentlemen. And time-restricted eating was worse. It was 12.6 pounds in a year. This is medical proof. It isn't some, making some statement, right? But again, here's the downside. Both, right here in the study, both the time-restricted eating and daily caloric restriction diets led to the loss of lean muscle mass. Every one of these diets, I have more proof I'm going to show you in a moment. But let's come back over here to these 7 peer-reviewed studies where men and women were not even allowed to exercise because they want to eliminate exercise as an outlier. First of all, they lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, but they lost 16 pounds in a month. That took people, I just showed you the New England Journal of Medicine study, in a year. But instead of losing that precious lean muscle mass, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle with no exercise allowed. Aren't you a little bit curious? You can go to our website for free. There's no tricks. And if you like, only if you like what you see. See, we don't want to be in the convincing business. Why should we have to do that? That makes no sense at all. Because if we really have the facts, which we do, if we really have the proof that what we're doing, we're proving to you today, not through opinions, why diets affect, because they are. You put whatever diet you want. You're going to tell me about keto or paleo or Mediterranean or all of them, okay? Well, it just so happens, of course, I have a study that you might find very interesting. This one was done in the Journal of the American Medical Association. I'm not sure you can read it, but I'll read the title. Comparison of weight loss among named diet programs. What was so unique about this study, they looked at 48 different studies, 7,286 people, 12 months. And what they said, weight loss among named diet, they named the big diet programs in the study. Paleo, well, in the 48 studies, they covered about every diet out there, from paleo to keto, time-restricted eating, fasting, the Atkins diet, almost all the diets. So let's look at what did they find after 12 months. They compared the weight loss least amount on any diet to the most amount on any diet in 12 months. It was about 10 ounces. Let me repeat that. The difference in weight loss from the least to the most was 10 ounces, with the average being around, again, 16 pounds in a year, with the great majority of what they were losing was lean muscle mass. Okay, let's look at one more on muscle. Now this one really shocked me. This was done in nutrients. It was a study done on low carbohydrate diets. Listen to what they said. Exposure to low-carb diets is associated with reductions in muscle mass, obviously, and increased osteoporosis risk in obese individuals. What? They went on to say, reduced muscle mass is an established risk factor for osteoporosis and has been associated with functional impairment in obese individuals. So here you are going on a diet, lowering your carbohydrates, and you're increasing your risk of osteoporosis. Do you see something's off here? Because you've got to understand, you've always heard the term balanced diet. It's really true. Guess what? You do need carbs, but you need the right kind of carbs. Not simple carbs like white rice and white bread, and you need complex carbs like cauliflower and broccoli and things like that. But now we've got can you imagine? Here you are going on a diet, you think you're doing really something great, and you're potentially increasing your risk of osteoporosis. Does anyone think, what's the website? It's right up above you, Dane Brown Jr., The New Health Conversation. You can see it, he put it up there for you. And it's free to go there, there's nothing, and you can schedule a free consultation. And it's free. It's not somebody an 800 number, it's not a bait and switch. We're not there to convince you. We're there to find out, do you want to gain weight? Do you want to lose weight? Are you on any medical challenges? Are you young, old? Do you work out? So many variables. See, this one size fits all with these influences. Here's 3 recipes to lose weight. Well, wait a minute. If you're a diabetic, that might be a little different than if you just have high blood pressure. What if you're really overweight? Now what do you do? So this is really the clincher, I think. So what they did in these, the 7 peer-reviewed human trial studies that I've been talking about, let me review real quickly. 80% women, 20% men, no one allowed to exercise because they didn't want exercise to be an outlier. And yet they lost as much weight in 7 days as 8 weeks of any diet, lost as much weight in a month as people lost in a year. But instead of losing lean muscle mass with no exercise, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. And in 8 weeks, they shrank the visceral fat by 33%. I'll show you before and afters in a minute that'll prove that. But more important, and they're not photoshopped, okay? We rely on science. We don't rely on opinions. If you want opinions, there's plenty of people you can get opinions from, right? So let's take a look in these studies, in this one in particular, in the Obesity Journal, one of the biggest weight loss journals in the world. They had half the people did this new protocol, which is called R2M. I'm going to explain it again in just a moment. Just hold for just a moment, I promise. They compared the people in this protocol consume more calories than the people in the diet they compared the results to, and that diet, I have it right here, is the Mediterranean diet. Which, why did they choose the Mediterranean diet? Why didn't they do time-restricted eating or paleo? Because the Mediterranean diet has been the #1 diet 7 years in a row by U.S. News and World Report. Okay, well, in the Mediterranean diet, in 8 months, people lost 10.2 pounds. They lost about 40% of the lean muscle. Over here, these people lost 16 pounds in 30 days. And instead of losing lean muscle like they did in the Mediterranean diet, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass. Now, what was also shocking, the people here consume more calories than the people in the Mediterranean diet. Well, how's that possible? Okay, well, let's go to another resource, because again, I don't want you to believe me. This is a really good book, The New American Diet. Some pretty shocking stuff in here. It was written by Stephen Perrin, editor-at-large at Men's Health, okay? So here's what they said here's why the people in the studies consumed more calories and lost more weight and gained lean muscle instead of lost it. This is a great quote in this book. The more nutrition you give your body, the fewer calories it wants to eat, and the more efficiently it burns the calories you do eat. Oh, one thing I didn't mention in the studies, hunger for the participants went down in 30 days by 41%. They cut it almost in half. Their cravings. That's why they were able to stay on it and be so successful. But listen to, again, the more nutrition you give your body, the fewer calories it wants to eat. And the more efficiently it burns the calories you do eat. That was the point. The people in these new studies consumed more calories, but because they were nutritious, the body so efficiently got rid of them. So it didn't matter that they were consuming more calories. It was, again, what's in the calorie. Back to what the one obesity expert from Harvard Medical School, let me get the quote right here. The idea of a calorie in and a calorie out when it comes to weight loss is not only antiquated, it's just wrong, says Fatima Stanford, obesity specialist at Harvard Medical School. She went on to prove this point. Drop the calories notion, says Stanford. It's time to take a different approach, putting the emphasis on what's in the calorie, not how many calories you're consuming. There's your downfall. So any diet you're looking at where you're lowering calories, good luck. Because, again, this is why they're failing, because we've lost our minds. We think the body doesn't know what a calorie is. The body doesn't count calories. It doesn't run on calories. It runs on nutrition. So we already know that our food in this country is becoming more and more nutritionally bankrupt, and they talked about in this big worldwide study, The Lancet, the #1 journal in the world, where they said 1 billion people worldwide are now clinically obese. Not overweight, clinically obese, making obesity the leading form of malnutrition. Do you see now why the calorie means nothing? They went on to say most people are not aware that obesity and being underweight are both forms of malnutrition, because in both cases the people are not getting the right amounts of vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and the types of calories that are required to be healthy. Okay, let's come back over to the peer-reviewed. What did they do in these studies? What was so different? Well, about They only let people about 40% of the food they typically would consume they got from the grocery store. The other 60% came from 5 foods from around the world. Why was that necessary? Because those foods from places like New Zealand and Russia and Mongolia, Manchuria, from Nepal, actually in Tibet, in the Himalayas and South America, had massive amounts of nutrition regardless of how many calories. So they now had about 40% of the food from the grocery store, 60% of the food from these sources around the world. And then the other thing they did that was so unusual, exactly, it just shouldn't take Ozempic. I'll come, Jay McKnight, I'll give you some info on that in a moment, but let me just finish my thought. So one of the things they did, a completely different way of eating, looking at eating, was something called protein pacing. It blows away time-restricted eating. It blows away just eat when you're hungry, okay? And what they perfected was how much protein in what sequence at what time over the course of a full day, okay? But the other thing they did, and this will sound crazy to you, is something called intermittent nutritional fasting. It's not an oxymoron. I didn't misspeak. Nutritional fasting. Not intermittent fasting, not water fasting, not time-restricted eating. And the results they produced were unbelievable. These the top weight loss researchers in the world for 38 years, blown away. And they didn't just look at the shrinkage, and they looked at, they did blood, sugar, stool, and fat analysis, and found blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, triglycerides, all came down dramatically in 30 days, along with inflammation. Went down 25% in 30 days. No, the main reason to do this is not to lose weight. Yeah, that's exactly right. They can have horrible side effects. But again, for the person talking about GOP and whatever, just so happens, okay? Here's a big, now again, I'm not against the drugs. Don't let anybody say that. If that's what you need, you think that's what you need to lose weight and it's helping you, you go for it. But let's look at the medical evidence. Again, hopefully you can see this, New England Journal of Medicine. It says once weekly semaglutide. So semaglutide, Ozempic, they're all GLP-1s. So what's the tail of the tape? Well, in this study, remember, this is the New England Journal of Medicine doesn't sell, they're just there to analyze it, right? 68 weeks. The weight loss in 68 weeks on the drugs was 34 pounds. But right in the study, it says 40% of the weight loss was lean muscle mass. Now, why is that so unhealthy? It's so unhealthy because when you lose lean muscle mass, your body absolutely positively slows down your metabolism, the rate at which you burn calories, not when you're exercising, but when you're awake. But the other thing it does, it also impacts your immune system. So let's do the math. 34 pounds, 68 weeks, maybe you think that's okay. But right in the study, so that means 14 pounds was lean muscle mass of the 34 pounds. And the experts say for every pound of lean muscle you lose, even if you go to the gym and you do everything right, it takes you 12 months to replace 1 pound of lean muscle mass. And I know because we're getting people now that are coming on these and said I was on the shot, I lost weight, but I gained it all back. I mean, people are gaining like a half a pound a day. I don't know. I guess the solution is you have to stay on that shot forever. But if you're losing 40% of your lean muscle, have you just kicked the can down the road? Because the minute you stop, you're not going to be able to burn as many calories. You're going to gain all the weight back. But I suppose if you're obese and that's your only, I'm not against it. Our job is just to point out the differences. Our job is to show you the difference. It's not to, we're not here to convince you of anything. But when you see, remember, they lost 34 pounds in 68 weeks, okay? So it's almost silly, and you'll think we photoshopped this. I promise we didn't. Look at Kristen here. This is 30 days. She loses 21.2 pounds, 38.75 inches. Look at the difference like in her stomach area. I'll bring it in a little bit closer so you can see. Look at that, the side view. That's not photoshopped, okay? That's not happening on the shot or on typical diets. You get all the loose skin. And this is an even more dramatic picture, I believe. There we go. You'll notice October 3rd to November the 9th, look at the difference from her neck to her ankles. That's not happening on diets. That's not happening on diet and exercise. It just isn't. And the other problem is, I don't care what diet it is, I don't care what exercise program, you're not removing any of these chemicals that we're storing in our fat cells. Why would you think it's okay to carry 1 gram of a toxin for 1 extra second? The whole purpose behind this was to enable our own body to be more efficient at removing these chemicals we're storing in our visceral fat. That's why I keep saying the main reason to do this is not to lose weight. That's a throw-in. That's like, yeah, we know that's happening. But aren't you interested in your health? And even if you don't have those challenges, don't you want to, look, they're saying 92% of us are metabolic and healthy. Whether you know it or not, saying you have 3 of 5 factors: overweight, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, high triglycerides. Not my number, that's from the CDC. What if it's 80%? It's a pandemic. And what are we doing? We keep going. Here's Jenny Craig, here's Weight Watchers, here's Nutrisystem, here's Paleo, here's Keto, here's time-restricted eating, here's fasting, here's Atkins, here's the Zone Diet, here's the Cornish Diet, here's lose weight for your blood type. We're failing. What's going on, folks? Why diets are failing us? Because they are. What you'll get to see if you elect to go to the New Health Conversation, you get to see the medical proof. I don't know, maybe that's not enough for you. Not only are the studies there, both of traditional diets and of this new protocol, but also this guy. What do we do? I promise I'll come back to that in 1 second. So it's not what you would do, okay? Again, your option to do. The medical studies that are on the site that are proven, okay? What they accomplished was so far beyond weight loss, but they did 4 things. Number 1, the researchers developed a list of food that they had people go to the grocery store. So instead of 100% of the food they typically would buy, they probably ended up buying about 40%, maybe even less than that of the food they typically would buy. That's step number 1. Step number 2, there were 5 foods that came literally from all over the world. They came from places like Russia, Mongolia, Manchuria, Bangladesh. They came from Nepal, in the Himalayas, South America, and New Zealand. Now, why was that necessary? Because the regular food, even if it's organic in this country, is becoming more and more nutritionally bankrupt, more and more nutritionally deficient. So what they had to do was find foods that would make up for the deficiency in our food, okay? Because all diets are based, traditional diets, not this is not a diet, on lowering calories. And what they never tell you is when you lower the calories, you're lowering the nutrition in food that's already nutritionally almost bankrupt. One of the things we're the most deficient in is what? What are called trace ionic minerals. This is one example. First example is trace ionic minerals. We need 70 of them. That's what the experts say. And in the best organic, with your best intentions, you're getting 20 out of 70. You're already in a deficit, okay? You think you're eating healthy, and you're eating as healthy as you know about, but unless you're prepared to go to New Zealand and Russia and all these, the researchers don't sell anything. They're researchers, but they found fulfillment companies that had researched and found these foods that they brought from all over the world, right? The point is that, so now you had half of what they did. The other half was 2 completely different ways of eating. One is called protein pacing, which in simple terms is protein, exact amounts in an exact sequence, etc. But they didn't just rely on regular protein you'd get at your grocery store. I'll come back to that in a moment. The other thing they did was something called intermittent nutritional fasting, not fasting, okay? Now, what's the deal with protein? Well, protein is probably one of the most misconstrued, misunderstood. You hear these people saying, you know, increase your protein like 120 grams a day. Okay, well, protein, the only reason you eat protein, this will shock some people, is not for protein itself. The protein itself is like the walnut shell, and obviously you don't eat the shell, you want the walnut. So what they had to, in Europe about 8 years ago, about 10 years ago actually, they developed a test that when you ingest protein, which contains all 20 amino acids, there are 9 out of 20 that are essential, meaning you have to get them from your diet, and the other 11 are what are called non-essential, okay? But what they did with the tests in Europe, it wasn't that you weren't getting all 20 amino acids, the 9 essential and the 11 that are not essential. But what they were able to measure through blood, urine, stool, and fat analysis was what percentage of the 20 amino acids were being absorbed at our gene level. See, here's the fallacy to one of the nice people that was on before, saying she lost 50 pounds, on her own. But I guarantee you she wasn't. Here's what she was doing. If she was using any form of protein, let's start with vegan proteins. Let's start with something like a pea protein. And I don't mean to make vegans mad, but I'm just the scientist reporting. What they found, the absorption of the 20 amino acids in a pea protein was only 10%. 90% of it was toxic waste. They're called nitrogen catabolites that the kidneys have to get rid of. God forbid you ever had a friend that was on kidney dialysis. They don't want them to have any protein at all, or almost none. Now, all meats, whether it's steak, chicken, liver, fish, swordfish, trout, 30%. So even when you're ingesting, let's say grass-fed beef, which is one of the things we actually recommend, or the researchers recommend, 70% of it's toxic waste, okay? Now the key in this, one of the keys in the medical studies and why people started to look like that was with no exercise, they gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass, and here's why. And why didn't they let anybody exercise? Because of what I'm going to share with you next. The body makes muscle with one of those 20 amino acids called leucine. That's what it's called. You'll find bodybuilders, they'll consume like 1 or 2 ounces, grams, a day of protein because they're trying to get more leucine, right? Well, in the studies, they found sources where the absorption of that protein was 91%, and it included all 70 minerals, and it includes, yeah, I just happen to like the Himalayas, I'm sorry. Because actually, to be quite honest with you, Carl, one of the ingredients literally comes from the side of the Himalayas. It's what the Sherpas have been taking for centuries. It's how come they can climb Mount Everest, for the most part, without oxygen. So anyway, what the researchers found shocked them, because people with no exercise gained 6 to 9% lean muscle mass because of the 91% absorption of the amino acids, and that meant they had very little waste that the kidneys had to deal with. That's the reality. You can do whatever you want to do. I mean, I still eat grass-fed beef and antibiotic-free chicken, etc. But thank goodness I'm able to supplement. It's not a supplement. It's not a pill. But a food that gives me 91% absorption of amino acids. That's pretty darn good. But that's also why you're seeing these. Well, here's an athletic performance one. This is exactly day 1 right here. Sorry, day 1 there, day 4, and day 12. Look at the transformation. Look at the change in the stomach. It's unbelievable. But that's because, again, building lean muscle the way you do it from working out, but we won't get anywhere near the result if you don't have high quantities of leucine, the amino acid that's responsible for that. I mean, our whole goal here is to put you into a position where you have at least now you have a choice. You can hold on to your beliefs, you can hold on to your opinions that these influences are showing you, but they're not showing you one shred of medical evidence. I haven't seen anybody. It's not a supplement. It's a food, okay? I'll give you a supplement right now that you can take. Free advice, nothing to do with me. It's called Pure Amino. It's a pill you can take. It's got it actually has about 95, 96% absorption. But here's the problem. It has no nutrition. It doesn't have the minerals. The minerals work in conjunction with the amino acids, along with enzymes. So it's an incomplete picture, okay? Because there are people who have been taking pure amino, they're not losing these kind of weight, and they're not making this kind of lean muscle. It's that simple. Because the body needs the biodiversity. It needs vitamins. It needs minerals. For example, all of you may or may not know this. If you're taking vitamins like vitamin C, vitamin D, and you don't have minerals, you're just paying for expensive urine. It's just right through your body. Body cannot use a vitamin without a mineral. That's why it's so important. But it's not just a matter of taking, there's nothing wrong with pure amino. I'm telling you about it right now. But it's not the solution. It's a minor part of the solution. Because again, the other things that are going on to promote the muscle growth is because of all the other nutrition on top of the leucine. Maybe that makes sense, maybe it doesn't. You know, I'm just telling you. I know that people come on here and they want to express their opinions. I'm all for that. But an opinion is not a fact. And I've been a nutritional researcher for 21 years. I know that doesn't matter to any of you. It matters to me. I've written 4 best-selling books for some of the top medical doctors in the whole world. I did 20 shows on PBS. I've been interviewed on the 4 biggest daytime shows in America and did 1,500 lectures all over the world, including in China. And yet for 20 years, that didn't mean a thing in the medical world. Zero. Until a year ago, when these 7 peer-reviewed studies have come out over the last, really a little bit over a year, maybe year and a half. Well, now I got medical doctors they're going like, okay, now you got our attention. You realize there's no other nutrition, supplement, weight loss program that have peer-reviewed human clinical trials. They'll talk about, well, they have a clinical trial, they have a scientific paper, they have a science, doesn't mean a thing, zero, doesn't mean anything. You're welcome to follow anybody you want to, but who are you following to what end? The end is 80% of Americans are overweight, 50% are obese, 50% of Americans are pre-diabetic, 9 out of 10 Americans are metabolically unhealthy. Do you know, they're estimating now 45% of the American population has non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And according to Dr. Lustig at Stanford University Medical School, that it's not just one, okay? Well, one of the best foods you can eat is, if you're going to do it, you know, grass-fed beef, but it's only 30% absorption. What I'm trying to point out to you, the researchers had to find, there were literally 5 different food, whether you call them groups, whatever, that had massive amounts of nutrition that combined with about 40% of regular food, obviously organic, things like grass-fed beef, things like antibiotic, hormone-free, growth-free, you know, chicken or whatever. It's complicated. This is not just some supplement. This is not like if you go to the, but on the website, you can see the medical proof. Let's start there. Let's start first with the proof and then work our ways backwards. Also on that site, there's something called the Blueprint for Success. It walks you through at a higher level, but pretty much everything they did in the studies. But then no, actually in sweat, healthy enough. There's not evidence, not 1 gram of a toxin in sweat. Sorry to tell you that. Infrared sauna is the closest they come, but it only penetrates about 1/4 of an inch. These chemicals are embedded deep inside of us in our visceral fat wrapped around our organs. I'm sorry to tell you that. So eating organic, by the way, in 200 studies, they proved organic was slightly better nutritionally than regular food, but it was less polluted. That's why I eat organic. Not because it's more nutritionally sound, because again, in organic, they proved it. You need 70 trace ionic minerals. You're getting 15 to 20. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Let's see, what else? So the idea here is that the other thing that's going on that you all should be concerned about, oh, here it is every one of you have this syndrome called TDOS. This is Registered Trademark U.S. Patent Office. So it's up there with metabolic syndrome, syndrome X. What does it stand for? The T is for toxicity, the D is for nutritional deficiency, the O is for overweight, the S is for stress. Well, this is really what the researchers set out in the first place to do. Could they prove that it was possible by essentially flooding the body with massive amounts of nutrition, not massive amounts of calories? Would it up the natural detox mechanism that we all have inside of us? Without us doing anything, we have, you know, somehow I got to complete the verification to keep going here. I don't understand. What is going on here? Did I lose everybody? For some reason it stopped. Can anyone still hear me or see me? Okay, well, I guess for some reason it just totally stopped. Huh. Offline. Wow. Okay.